My name is Vanessa Rutigliano, and I'm a career counselor in the Career Development Center. And so throughout the day, we've invited alumni to join us for conversations about their careers in order to give you guys insight into different career paths and industries, and to get advice on, how to enter and thrive in these fields. So again, these sessions will be recorded, and our guest today is Sarah Contrata. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick, summary of Sarah's career so far. So she graduated from SJU in 2017 with her bachelor's in business intelligence. She's currently working at Riot Games as a business intelligence analyst. And Sarah has worked at Riot Games for 2 years, and previously worked at PwC as an advanced risk and compliance analytics solutions associate. That's a long one.
It's super long. We just call ourselves ARCA or something like that. There's so many teams.
Awesome. And while at SJU, Sarah was a student athlete and tutor. And so I'm really excited to welcome Sarah back to Hawk Hill today.
Thank you. Glad to be joining from West Coast, which I feel like wouldn't have happened before.
Awesome. Yes, that is unique for us. So really exciting. So I have a list of about 10 questions that I'm going to be asking you, followed by a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session from our listeners today. So audience, just feel free to write your questions in the chat box, and that'll be shared with our guest here during the Q&A, at the end of the session. So we can go ahead and get started. So we're going to begin today with just a series of career-focused questions. So Sarah, could you describe within your current role, your core responsibilities and what a typical day or week looks like for you?
Yeah, so for my role, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. Every week or month could look somewhat different. I am mostly working with the revenue accounting team. So the revenue accountants get a lot of statements, obviously, from like Chase, PayPal, about how much money we're making, but they don't have as much insight into what our players are actually purchasing in the game. So a little bit of background, we have a couple of games at Riot Games, League of Legends, Valorant, Legends of Runeterra, Wild Rift. So we have a bunch of games now, and
Yeah.
we have a lot of different content in all of those games. So the accountants need to know what kind of content that people are purchasing, especially because all of those games are free. You can play the game for free, and then everything that you buy is more of a cosmetic item or something different. And all of those different things have different revenue recognition rules. So because of that, I am there to help out with player behavior and different kinds of content and actually doing that kind of analytics. So that's like an accounting heavy day for me, or maybe accounting heavy month. But when I have a little bit more free time, I am helping out with process automation. So I use Python to hook into APIs, get some reports. So some poor staff accountant is not going into every single reporting tool that they need to go into and download all the reports for month-end close. I do robotic process automation using UiPath. So just at a click of a button, someone can get a process from start to end in like 15, 20 minutes, something that would have taken a poor staff person to do for like 4 to 5 hours in a day. So those are the things I do. And then I technically report up to the central data team. So some months, if I'm really light on accounting work or process automation work, I just join their team for a sprint or two, and I get to do data engineering tasks where I grab raw data from our game teams and then transform them into queryable, just prettier data sets for our analysts to use. So I'm a jack of all trades, and it's really fun.
Wow. Okay. So that's awesome. I know that really stood out to me. I like how you kind of brought that back at the end, just being a jack of all trades. It's led me to kind of wonder, how do you manage all these different things kind of up in the air at once? What's kind of flow like?
I'm kind of in a weird position where I do report to multiple different managers and I have to kind of keep everything pretty organized. So having the communication skills to be like, I'm working on this today. What am I working on next week? What am I working on next month? And just keeping all of that organized is a lot. But I had a lot of that experience at PwC. We had a ton of different clients that we were working on at different times. And yes, it is kind of your senior and your manager's job to sort of keep you in your lanes, but it was so difficult just because we had one person working on so many different clients at once. So I picked up that skill from PwC, and it has carried me into Riot Games now.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So I'm wondering too, when did you know that this was the career path that you wanted to pursue, and what led you to that decision?
I will be totally honest, in college and high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to make it into the games industry. I've been playing video games since I was young. I had two older brothers, so I always had to try my best to beat them in whatever they were doing. And of course, they were playing video games. So I knew I wanted to make it to the games industry, but it was very hard for me to imagine like how I could make it there. And then as I was learning more in college and things like every single company needs to have an accounting team, finance team, analytics people, not just the game devs and the software engineers that are working on the game itself. So once we figured that out, I did start looking at Riot Games and other video game companies in Los Angeles. I'm from Los Angeles, so like I kind of knew the area and knew what companies were based out here. But I did notice that a lot of the job postings were, hey, you need 3 years of experience. So that's when I knew I had to go to a big company first, get a great company on my resume, and then in 3 or 4 years, I'll give it another shot. So that's when I found PwC. Obviously, if you guys have attended any of like the career days and things at St. Joe's, the big four are always there: PwC, Deloitte,
Yeah.
EY, KPMG, and other like mid-tier terms too are also there. So I was like, this seems like a pretty solid place to go first. So I actually ended up interning in the Los Angeles office. They flew me out from Philly to Los Angeles for like 2 days just to do the interview.
Wow.
So I knew that I had to get a good company on my resume first, and then if I still wanted to go that path after a couple of years, then I could try again later. So it was kind of just like figuring it out in college and after college, like what I kind of wanted to do. Business intelligence, I just found because I was like, oh, I'm pretty decent at stats. Like, I like data visualization. I understand data and I understand how to use a computer, which some people don't. So it's like, this is a good marriage of the two.
Got it. Got it. That's awesome. So what is the typical career path, would you say, for an entry level associate within either PwC or where you're at now?
Yeah, so PwC is a little bit easier because they do recruit straight out of college and they do invest a lot into the straight out of college um, recruits. So PwC obviously is at your career day. So they're there and they're there to recruit young people and straight just fresh out of college people. So there you would go 2 to 3 years as an associate into senior, 2 to 3 years as a senior into manager, and then senior manager. And there's like a pretty direct career path there. I quickly learned that I am not really built out for client services. So that's when I was like, I gotta go look for a new job. So that's when I found Riot. Like I mentioned before, a lot of the roles at Riot are like you gotta have 2, 3, 4 years minimum experience before you make it. We do have a couple of internships here and there, but from what I know, there aren't that many, or I don't even think there are any BI internships, and then no accounting internships either. At least in my 2 years here, I haven't seen any of them. So once you have a couple of years experience, what's nice about Riot is you get in, and then there's also an internal job board. So I've been here for 2 years. I could try, if I don't want to work in accounting or I don't want to work on the central data team anymore, I can go and apply for a different analyst position. I can go do different things. So that's actually pretty common at Riot Games. You see a lot of people who have worked on multiple game teams, multiple other kinds of teams, or like bounced around from one job title to another just because they don't want to do software engineering, they want to do data engineering or something like that. There's a lot of bouncing around and sharing of knowledge between teams. So at Riot, there you can go towards the path of management if you want to go manage other people and relationships, or you can just kind of keep going as like a subject matter expert and become a principal. So there's multiple different career paths to go at Riot, whereas I feel like at PwC it was straight up the ladder you go.
Yeah, yeah, but that sounds like a really great work environment, knowing that there's a lot of kind of room for advancement, upward mobility, or just kind of ways to bounce around. So that's
For
awesome.
sure. Hmm.
So what do you enjoy most about, the current role that you're in? And is there something that you wish you could change?
Right now, I just enjoy that I get to work with so many different people. I thought I was an introvert, but as we went working from home and for COVID, I realized that at work I am actually more of an extrovert, and I really like learning from other people and just like learning from other people in passing. So I really enjoy how social Riot Games is, in that we basically, it feels like being back in college, guys. Like, we have a campus. We call our offices the campus. We have a huge basketball court in the middle of our campus. We've got a free cafeteria where we get free food, free coffee, free smoothies, all these like great things that you just get to like go with your coworkers. You can talk about work. You can talk about other stuff too. You don't have to talk about work. It's a very like social and like inviting um, just community of people that work here.
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoy the social aspect of it. One thing I would change, I'm not sure what I would change. I sometimes I would like to work on more technical things than like accounting things. So sometimes that's what I would think that I would like to change. It's like, hey, I wish I would be able to do a little bit more Python or more like SQL. But other than that, I can't really complain. I'm always bouncing around doing different things. So
Awesome. Awesome. That's good to hear. So what do you think has surprised you the most? Just kind of going through your career.
I was surprised how quickly I was able to get to the games industry. I just assumed that I would have to make it to senior at PwC. I would have to spend a couple years at senior, and then I would be able to try to find one of the analytics positions. But I kind of shot my shot. I only had 2 years of experience for a job that said minimum 3 years experience, and I just kind of shot my shot and went for it and ended up getting hired. So just shoot your shot, everyone. Just throw your resume at whatever sticks, and if it sticks, it sticks. Just that's how it kind of seems to go.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great advice. So I know that you had mentioned internships at Riot Games and PwC. So I want to shift gears a little bit to focus on actions that students can take. And again, I'd like to remind our listeners, I saw one question already in the chat. So post any questions you have in the chat. They're going to be shared, in our Q&A. So I want to ask again about internships in a minute, but before I do that, what are 2, 3 experiences that you would suggest students engage in, while in college to help prepare them for kind of entering your field upon graduation?
I would say go to a lot of the career day things, make use of like getting your resume reviewed and everything. Any mock interviews you can do. Interviews are a skill. Like, you cannot just pick up that you're a great interviewee just by doing one or two of them. Like, you start getting used to some questions. You start getting used to the kind of responses that they're looking for. So 100%, if you want to get a job, make an effort to go to career day. My first, I think I went to career day like freshman, sophomore year, and I didn't talk to anyone, but just listening in and walking through and like, oh, this is a company I could talk to next year or the year after. Just making a note of who's there and what they're looking for. Just like keep your eyes open and keep your ears open for sure. It's those are the things that you really need to do to be able to land a job.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Something that I always talk about with students is that it's never too early, right? So, from your experiences, just still attending career fairs and things like that, freshman and sophomore year, would you recommend that? Do you think that it's never too early to kind of put yourself out there?
Never too early. I did not have the confidence to walk up to anyone and actually talk to them, but I just went for the fun of it. I had a couple of friends on the tennis team that were looking for internships and things. I knew as a freshman I wasn't going to land an internship, but just being able to dress up and walk around and just like understand the vibe and understand how things were working made me realize what the plan of action for my junior and senior year. I guess I didn't go senior because I already had a job, but for junior year, when I was looking for an actual internship, I had a plan of action like, oh, I want to go visit these 3 companies because I already knew that other people had gotten internships from them with a BI major. So I knew that they were specifically looking for BI people to join their companies for internships. So it's great to go a couple of years in advance. If you have the confidence to go talk to people, go for it. Like, do it. I did not. I was not up there at all. And my resume was so like flat that I was like, I can't even show this to anyone. This is terrible.
I'm sure it wasn't, but thank you. That's really good advice. And kind of in a similar vein, how do you think your SJU education impacted, how you work, and maybe even the career decisions that you've made, so far to date?
Yeah, just having all the connections that St. Joe's had, like we have such great connections with some companies. Like my friend went to Mars. All of the food marketing people get awesome jobs out of St. Joe's. BI analysts, we do get a lot of jobs and things out of the career fair. We have relationships with those companies because we keep producing really good alumni. So keep that going, like keep going to those things. Um, the other thing, like just classes wise, I wish I talked to my professors more. Shout out to the professors. I'm sorry I was really quiet in most of your classes, but I wish I was able to talk to professors more, just being able to talk in their language, because a lot of our professors have industry knowledge and industry experience. So ask them questions, like ask them why we're learning the things that we're learning and why they're important. But one thing definitely that helped was the capstone class of just doing that huge project. I kind of forgot what the project was called. But when we worked together with all the other majors and come up with an actual business plan for a business that's actually in the world right now, that taught me to work with other people, because there's no place, especially as an analyst, you're going to be talking to people who know data and who don't know data at all. So to be able to talk and either level up your language or level down your language to be able to talk to your coworkers or people in management, things like that, that's really, really important skill to be able to have. So definitely know your audience. St. Joe's taught me how to do a lot of those things before I joined PwC, and then I can still see those learnings at Riot Games today.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so again, I know we had talked about internships a little bit. So are there any types of internships that you recommend students try to secure or prepare a role like yours in the industry? Again, either at PwC or Riot Games, or really just in general.
Yeah, Riot's a little bit more difficult. From what I've seen on internships, I think we've already closed down the internships for next year. We've already started doing the interviews and things. And most of those internships are for like software and I think art people that work directly on the games. So not as many opportunities that I know of for Riot, but for PwC and the Big Four, and if you want to join the kind of client services type roles, definitely go for it. And I just go to the career fair, go check out the job board that like the St. Joe's career counselors have. There's so many jobs on there. I remember when I was there, you could filter down for like the people that were actually looking for your major. It's so much easier to do that than like go on LinkedIn and try to just like cold like apply for things on LinkedIn. Just take advantage of what we already have and the relationships that we've already built with the companies that are looking for interns, and go from there.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for plugging all those resources. You know, we
That's how I
promise
got
we
my
did not.
internship.
Awesome. But we did not pay Sarah to say that, so we appreciate
No.
that. Awesome. Okay, so as we come to a bit of a close here, I have two final questions for you, Sarah, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So number one, what is something that you wish someone told you back when you were in school, you know, at St. Joe's?
What was something someone told me? I wish someone told me that there's a lot more to learn than what you learn in your classes.
Yeah.
Especially in a technical field, you're always going to be learning more stuff. So like even now, I've got a book that I have to read for my mentoring because I need to learn how to design data intensive applications. I need to be a little bit more software engineering heavy in my job because I don't understand what the software engineers and the data engineers are sometimes telling me. So there's always continual learning, especially if you're in a technical field. So don't think that you're done, because I'll be honest, I was not great at learning and school. Like I was not amazing. I didn't have a fantastic GPA. Like it was hard for me to get through school sometimes. um so when I got out of my job, got out and I was like, oh, I can finally work, I thought it was done. I was over. I've already learned most of the things that I need to learn, and I'll get like on the job training for a lot of stuff. It's true, there are on the job training and you get to get your hands dirty in data and do those kinds of things. But as I've realized that I want to move up, like if I want to become a manager, if I want to become more senior or principal, like I have to learn how to talk to software engineers about data. So here I am learning more things.
That's awesome. That's so true. You can never, you never leave the classroom in a sense, right? You
No,
never
you
stop
don't.
learning.
You learn to love learning, everyone. Figure
I
out a
love
way.
I love that. Okay, and I mean, I think that you sort of already answered this question. But if you can think of one last piece of advice that you would give to students who are interested in this career path.
Yeah, do well in your classes. If you get an internship, senior year, they're going to say you have to maintain your GPA, so do well in your classes. Ask a ton of questions to your professors. Ask why we're learning things. They have industry experience, so ask them about their industry experience. I didn't do that. Like, why didn't I do that? I had all the knowledge in the world in my professors, and I didn't ask them questions. Um, and then career-wise, go to the career fair, go get your resume checked out, go to mock interviews. You have to practice those things. I was so rusty in my interview for Riot Games when I was leaving PwC. I am lucky I passed any of those. I was so rough. And at some points I was like, I just bombed that. Like, geez, like I hope they can look past that interview for me. So do that. And then, oh, one more thing, if you are interviewing for a specific company, look at their values. Most of the time on on their job sites, they have like all their values listed out and what's really important to them. Usually your phone screening with the interviewer and stuff, that's the stuff that they're looking for. Take a look at their values, see how you can apply some of your past experiences to those values, or something that you know that you can demonstrate with those values, or just tell them that you appreciate some of those values and like which ones stick out with you the most. Like that'll make you stand out.
Awesome, awesome. And again, that's something that we talk to students about all the time. Know your career values, know what is really most important to you, and then talk about it in interviews, right? How these kind of align and how you're going to make an asset to that team, right?
For sure.
Because those align. Awesome. So thank you so much. So we're going to transition now to the Q&A portion of this session. So students, again, like you've been doing, if you have a question, you can either use the raise hand icon and we can call on you, or again, just throw them in the chat and we can do it that way. And if you're saying it without the chat, just when it's your turn, let our guests know your name and your year at SJU, and you can say your question. So I see one that was in the chat. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were here at St. Joe's?
What do I know now? Again, I think it's just all the learning that I have to do and all the things that I have to catch up on. At PwC, I feel like I was the most technical person in the room, whereas now at Riot Games, I am one of the least technical people in the room. So I really wish at St. Joe's I had picked up more like side projects to do on my own, something like a Python project or something like that, just to level up my experiences. I almost wish I like went the software engineering route in general, but now in the seat that I am at now, like I wish I was a little bit more intentional with some of my time in school when I had so much time in school, even with like all the practices and all the tennis stuff that I was doing. I wish I was a little bit more intentional with my time at school, because it would have been a lot easier to read this while I was at school versus now when I have a lot of work and other things going on.
Got it, got it. Awesome. So Uwe, I like this question. What kind of opportunities do you think the adversity of the pandemic has created in your field, and what's changed?
Um, at least in my field, like in general, most of the stuff that we do doesn't have to be in person, right? As long as you have a computer and a Tableau license, or as long as you have a computer and some way to access data sets, you're able to do your job. So I think a lot of jobs are hiring for remote work, and that's awesome. If you are a person who does not want to travel or does not want to commute, hates driving on the road, guys, LA is like a gridlock when it's like 8 to 10 a.m. It's impossible to get anywhere on the 405. A lot of people are looking for remote jobs. So I think what's great about our job is you really don't have to be in person for a lot of the things. Even now, I go into the office a couple times a week just because one, I enjoy the socialness, but two, it's only 5 minutes away from me. I live in Santa Monica, headquarters in Santa Monica. It's so easy to get to work. But everyone else who lives far away, they're like, no, I really enjoy being remote. So I think we have, at least at Riot Games, we scaled up everything to be able to, for the whole entire company to work from home. A lot of other companies did the same exact thing. You'll see companies like Facebook and Google, or Meta, I guess, and Google and everyone else, all the FANG companies saying like, yeah, remote work is okay, it's possible. We don't even require you to come back to office. So pandemic wise, great for people who want to do remote work, especially in our
Awesome.
field.
Yeah, definitely. And ooh, another great question. What was the hardest interview question you've ever been asked? And what was the question that you've been asked the most often?
Ah, oh my gosh, my nightmares coming back to me. I had this interview question recently, actually. It was actually to map out all the data that's coming from one of our games, Valorant, and then how does it end up in a data lake? And that's honestly why I'm reading this book, because I was like, I actually don't understand how data comes from our video games, like our actual servers and clients. How do events come from games? Like every single item that someone's purchased, every single payment someone's made, every single bullet that's fired, every single kill in Valorant is logged somewhere. Like the position of someone firing the shot and then the position of the person dying. It's all of that is in our data. We got a bajillion of those a day. How do we access that big data? How do we collect all that big data and how does it end up queryable in our databases? And I flunked, guys. I flunked. I had no idea. So yeah, it was really, really hard. But for other like behavioral questions, one of the harder ones that I've had to think pretty strongly on or think for a long time on were things like, how did you receive feedback, or what kind of feedback did you receive? And then
Mhm.
how did you act on it? That was one of the harder ones because one, you don't want to make it look like you sucked at your job and that's why you're receiving feedback. So you have to spin it in a good way to get that feedback, or like constructive feedback, and spin it in a way that's like, oh, I was trying to grow, that kind of stuff. And then how you acted on it's like, oh, did I actually like listen to it? Or was I just like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. Screw you. Like, so that was one of the harder questions too that I definitely have to think of. And it's asked a lot in a lot of interviews now, if the employer cares about like, if it's a pretty open feedback type employer. So PwC was like that. We gave open feedback to people all the time, and Riot is also like that. I have one-on-ones with like 10 people, and they give me feedback all the time, whether it's positive or constructive. So it's a very open area, so that we're not going to get like blindsided during our reviews. Like you already know how you're doing throughout the year, so that you already know how you're tracking for year-end reviews. So those are my
Yeah.
tough questions.
Awesome, awesome. And so another one, generally, what would be the latest date to search for internships? Shall we get our BIA courses learned before applying to an internship?
I would say it depends. A lot of companies, like the huge ones that have like huge recruiting teams, so things like Riot Games and the Big Four, I think. I'm trying to remember when I did my interviews for internship. I'm pretty sure I had an internship before December of my junior year. Like I already knew the year before that I had landed an internship. So again, earlier is better. The more you know about everything, the better. I think smaller companies do keep interviewing closer to the summer. So definitely check it out. I'm sure there's more internship available on the career website and the job board. And then should we get our business intelligence classes out of the way first? I'm not totally sure. Like it depends on probably the internship that you're applying for. If it's one that's a little bit less technical and they're not expecting you to know all of your SQL and database knowledge and Python stuff, then maybe you don't need to take everything beforehand. But if it's a little bit more tech heavy, then I would say try to learn it, or just at least like go Google. Like everything's on the internet now, everyone. Like everything's on the internet. Just go Google MySQL or SQL or literally anything, and just take a few minutes to understand it so that at least in the interview you can say, I've read up on it. I know what it does. I just don't know the querying language as well as as well as someone else might that was already taking the class. So I mean, I feel like for internships, most of the time, if it's an undergrad internship, they're expecting to teach you a lot, like a bulk of the knowledge that you need to know for a future career. So that's my take on it. If you think it's interesting, then take it beforehand. But if it's not, then shoot your shot, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's great advice too, to kind of independently try to learn about these things so that you
Hmm.
are prepared, right? That
Yeah.
makes so much sense. Okay, one other question. Are there data analysts in other departments at Riot, like business development or marketing?
We have analysts everywhere. They're not called BI analysts, but we have analysts on the game teams. We have analysts in HR. We have analysts in finance, biz development, all of those things. So we have analysts everywhere. I think the only thing that kind of like is different about BI analysts for us is we're usually looking more at like internal things. So one of my friends is a BI analyst and he works mostly with like player support teams, and one of my other friends works with HR a lot. So we I feel like we are more of a jack of all trades, whereas those analysts that are hired specifically for game teams or for like a specific purpose have those purposes, whereas BI analysts are like, we can make dashboards for anyone. Here we go. Ask us anything.
Nice. Okay, and one more. As a BIA major, can you apply to all types of analyst roles, or would you suggest focusing in on a certain area? Good question.
Good question. See, I always typically believe that you can do any kind of analyst role. Maybe some things like a finance analyst might be a little bit more financial heavy and they might require you to have more finance knowledge or maybe like take up a finance minor or something like that. But the great thing about internships is you have time to do those things. Like you have time to go pick up a finance minor if you need to, or a marketing minor if you need to. I would say we probably do have the skills to do most analyst jobs. So unless they're gating you in some way, um, yeah, unless they're like gating you and not letting you apply to something, then just apply for it. It's also the recruiter's job to read through your resume. So obviously put the things that you know on your resume because they're looking for, hey, can this person do SQL? Can this person do Python? Can this person create a Tableau dashboard? Does this person know Excel? Like all of those things are what recruiters, that's their job to look through. So if you're allowed to apply for it, shoot your shot. That's the recruiter's job to sift through all of the resumes that come in.
Yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So going once, going twice to our audience. Oh, I think we got one more. Okay. Do you have any idea what you will be doing in 5 years?
Dr. Mendoza, hello, hello. In 5 years, I think I would like to be either a software engineer or a data engineer. I would want to go more towards the technical side of things. I really appreciate like the data background that I have, but I also realized that most of the things that I work on as a BI analyst, I'm always requesting all this stuff from the data engineers because I don't have the data that I need to do the analysis I need. So half the time I'm kind of making requests and half the time I'm making my own data sets anyway. So might as well go a little bit more technical and do that stuff. But I think I'll still be at Riot Games. I love games, everyone. And I don't want to sell my company too much, but like we came out with like 3 new games in the past year and a half. We have a TV show out on Netflix now, like, what? And we have so many more things planned and so many more exciting things coming up. We're just kind of going crazy. So I am along for the ride. So I will probably still be at Riot Games doing God knows what and just enjoying my free coffee at the office.
Awesome, awesome. And if you stay in that technical world, it seems like the book will still be really helpful for you. So that's
Oh,
good.
for sure. Yes. I'll probably have 10 more books that look just like this. I don't know if you guys have seen these books, but there's always like a red box and then an animal and then a white background. All the technical books are like this. They all look like this and they all are very dry and have a ton of words that I don't understand, but we'll get there, guys. We'll get there.
All right, great. We love to hear that. Okay, again, going once for any more questions. Going once, going twice. Give everyone another second or two. All right, well, it looks like you answered everybody's questions. So thank you,
Woohoo.
Sarah. Everybody, please join me in thanking Sarah so much for joining us today and providing such great insight into her career. So Sarah, we're really grateful for your time, and we hope to see you back on Hawk Hill soon. So
One day I'll make it over to Philadelphia.
awesome, awesome. So viewers, again, just a reminder that this session was recorded and will be available for viewing on YouTube in about a week. So you can check it out there too. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you again for coming and logging on.